silver is a monetary metal, and the currencies are in their last throes. And so what's going to happen, in order for the public to pay attention, we've been trained to look at what's happening in the markets. So if we did see silver, well, they like it when both gold and silver go down, right? Or at the minimum, stay flat. They don't want either one of them going up near their fundamental value because it would attract too much attention. And yeah, there's clearly a problem in the silver markets with availability.
Glorious world we live in, though, Lynette. Nobody has to take our opinion for it. I mean, it's what a great life where you can just point out the wild things people say and write. Well, it's so special, and we can dig into it today because this is the LBMA. They're friends with all the guys that allegedly put physical silver into the trust, even though JP Morgan, who was caught in the CFTC's words, committing hundreds of thousands of times they rigged the market, not a few. They're not just custodian for SLV. They're custodian for a bunch of other trusts.
Right.
If you call iShares and ask them if they think that's a conflict of interest, they can't comment. And if you wait on hold, nobody. I ask them, like, is there a legal department, media, anyone? I'm even fair. I tell them I publicly accuse them of fraud. It's impressive as the fact that the ETP holdings hit a record. I love how they say we have record holdings. They don't mention it's accounted for, but we'll leave that aside.
Right.
Because as the social media frenzy gathered pace in late January, demand for coins, bars, and ETPs all jumped. For the latter, the ETPs, or you can think SLV and the trust, global holdings surged 120 million ounces in just 3 days.
I think definitely we could see some of the same conditions, but I also think they can continue to short an unlimited amount of it. So, yeah, I mean, we know silver is ridiculously undervalued. I mean, let's go to a million times future earnings and the markets are fair, but let's go to true supply and demand dynamics. And, silver clearly is way overvalued. And I am being facetious. I don't want anybody to think I'm serious about that. I mean, you have to understand, what's their job? Their job is not really to tell you the truth. Because when we know what the truth is, then we make educated choices, and everybody would still be buying both physical gold and physical silver like crazy. It wasn't because of COVID, although colloidal silver is really good for your immune system, but it's really because of what they're doing to the financial system. Has that stopped? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. Yeah, we could just create all of this money and keep doing it and keep sending out stimulus checks and sending out lots of more fiat dollars to people that don't really need it. And they'll go shopping with it. Just wait till we go to the digital currencies and they say, well, you can buy anything you want but gold and silver with this. But it's all about perception management. If they can manage how people perceive silver and gold and the stock market and the real estate, if they can manage how the public perceives what's happening, then they can dictate that outcome. It's kind of like, how do you catch a wild boar, right? You do it slowly, you do it precisely, you're doing it out in the open, but still you get to capture them, don't you? I would really, the truth is I think historically, I'd go back way further. People have a nowism kind of attitude. Well, if it didn't happen right now, because so many new things are constantly coming at us, but it really doesn't negate all of the experimentation and the overt manipulation of all of the markets. We've just gotten so used to hearing that rhetoric and people think they can't understand it. But the reality is you're not supposed to understand it, because then you'd go, well, I don't really understand this stuff, but clearly they must understand this stuff, so I'll just believe them. And if you do, that's at your own jeopardy, because they're not telling you the truth. They're telling you and it's not even, my father always used to say, watch what I do. No, I'm sorry. Listen to what I say. And I would say, Daddy, that doesn't make sense to me. You got to watch what people do. You can listen to what they say, but then whether or not what they're speaking is the truth and if they have integrity. And you have to understand that people up at that level, and people do need to really understand this, they need a sociopathic mentality. And I'm not saying that to be snarky or anything like that. I'm saying that because they cannot care about how that impacts most people. And that's really why, don't take their word for it. Look, if you have an ounce of silver, booty hooty Rudy Manooty, and you have an ounce of gold and it's in your possession and the price of it goes up and down, or it's manipulated here or it's manipulated there because they don't want you in the physical markets. Once you're there, you're a lot less under their control. The only thing they can then manipulate is what you think about the markets to prompt you to make choices that are not in your best interest. What you're doing and what my work is about is to enable people to make those choices that actually are in their best interest and not to trust the garbage. And like you said, it had 78 views. It's a significant piece to understand. Do you think that people would understand it if they listened to it even that one time? And then make different choices, which would, there's more of us than there are of them. That's why that whole silver squeeze piece from Reddit and all of that, that's why that was so significant, because I do think we are seeing a major grassroots movement that's growing. But I think that also started back with Occupy Wall Street. But then they didn't understand what they were really fighting for. And I'm not really sure that people do now. I think that they're just getting tired of being lied to. And I think the distrust is growing. And it has been for a very long time. It has been. But I think we're at the end. We're at the end. So they're going to have to, desperate governments do desperate things. And they want to stay in control and in power. So they want to control the narrative. And they've given themselves the tools to do that. But the problem is the more they use those tools, the more they have to use those tools and pile it on heavier, because it doesn't work the same way that it did in that first shock and awe.